So I'm Muriel Petersheim. I am a sexual assault advocate here, and I've been a sexual assault advocate at the center for 2 years now. Celebrated 2 years on October 6th.
Yay.
Yeah. Um, I'm queer. I am engaged to the love of my life, and I think that I've been advocating for the LGBTQ community since I realized I was queer, basically, but in different ways. Obviously, it's like evolved over time. Um, so I really started recognizing that, like, and it's kind of weird to say, like, I started recognizing I had homosexual tendencies, like, at, like, 12, like, when I could put a name to, like, what, like, queer was, or, like, bi, or lesbian, and all that like, great stuff, and, um, so I grew up in a really Catholic household, and so like gay was bad in my home. Like that was like it's supposed to be an insult. It was supposed to mean that they were lesser, like deviants, like sexual deviants. Um, I remember like from being like a child, my mom would say like, "Oh, is she funny?" and that would mean that like, is she gay? Um, and not only have I evolved in how I've advocated for the LGBTQ community, but my parents have also evolved too. So I don't think that they would say that anymore, at least not to my face. So
That's good.
yeah, so they've evolved. They actually really love my fiance, and they've totally embraced her into like their family and our family. Um, my mom has even like written uh, a poem for our wedding, which is kind of creepy and also really sweet. So yeah, so that if that shows you anything, like they have really come a long way, and I think having a queer kid has helped them in that process. I'm like their token queer kid. Um, so so like I said, I realized I was queer at a pretty young age, but I didn't know, like, especially with like people who are assigned at birth, female at birth, like their sexuality is usually like tends to be a lot more fluid than those who have been assigned male at birth, like vagina havers versus penis havers. I think vagina havers generally do have like more fluidity in their sexual spectrum, if that makes sense. Um, and so it was all very confusing. Like I knew I had to be straight for my family, but I knew I wasn't. And like my very first sexual experiences were with people who are identified as female and whatnot. Um, so starting from that young age, like when I started realizing I was queer, like I remember being a freshman in high school and I just moved to South Carolina, and I had already had a girlfriend. You know, when I lived in Florida, I lived there for like a year and a half after moving from upstate New York, and that was like my first like sexual awakening was this girlfriend when I was in eighth grade, and my parents found out and were not happy about that, and for lots of different reasons, we decided to move to South Carolina after that year and a half in Florida. Um, and so I was like, just kidding. I was just playing. I was just confused and experimenting, just like to get them off my back, basically. And so my freshman year, I was like, I know this is who I like. I know this about me. Like, if it means just playing straight until like I get out of high school or like get out of their financial power, then um, you know, like that. I guess I can do that, but I still want to be like an advocate. So I remember like wanting to start a GSA in ninth grade, and my parents were like, "Why do you want to start a GSA? A Gay Straight Alliance, you know, for in case you need to use this video for anything." So a gay straight alliance, which is like the more like antiquated term for the, like now they have like LGBTQ club or LGBTQIA club. You know, it's a little bit more inclusive now. But the GSA I really wanted to initiate. My parents were like, "Why?" I was like, "I want to be a straight ally." No, I just really wanted queers around me. So like small things from there, and then as I got older, after I graduated high school, I'm sorry, after I graduated college, I graduated in South Carolina, and my sister's a political scientist, and she is a professor at the same university that I attended. And so she received notifications from a colleague indicating that they wanted people to talk about their coming out experiences. And so I like was a panelist for like a class for like a social psychology class of the sort. So kind of advocating in that way. My father actually attended that. He asked it to come along as like he was like learning more about who I am and being queer. Um, so I graduated with a Spanish education degree. So I was a Spanish teacher before I became an advocate. And while I was a Spanish teacher, I volunteered my time as like a GSA sponsor, the teacher who facilitated GSAs. And then when I got to this role, seeing how awesomely queer friendly the center is, I like that was a huge draw as I was shifting from the role of educator to coming into the role of an advocate because there's a lot of transferable skills from between the two. But as I was transferring, I there was really like a lot of appeal to the center just because like they have like the Queer Out Loud committee. I was like, oh, I'm going to fit right at home here. And of course, so Cindy Garreton was the director of counseling services before it was called the director of sexual assault services. And she, I believe, is lesbian identified, has a wife, has 2 kids with her wife. And I didn't know this upon meeting her, but I thought it was really cool that like just like this person in power like was this openly queer person. So once I got in here, I speak Spanish and I'm queer, like 2 things I'm really passionate about. So I've really tried to do my initial position, like as a sexual assault advocate, was to do not only direct care service in providing advocacy and support for non-residential folks, but it was also kind of a way to expand outreach for SA services. And as our team has grown, obviously we now have a sexual assault outreach coordinator. So I get to focus. I can still do outreach things, but my focus is providing one-on-one support for clients. Um, but as I was getting into this role, she was like, I really want you to do outreach. I was like, awesome. So, I'm connected with La Casita Center, and I was trying to figure out ways I can connect with the community here. So we work with Louisville Youth Group, so ages 14 to 21, queer youth visit and hang out with each other on Friday nights instead of just being hoodlums out in whatever or being isolated in like rural Kentucky. So people from all over Kentuckiana, queer youth from all over Kentuckiana, come to Louisville Friday nights to meet and gather and socialize with each other.
That's cool.
And we had been doing stuff with them prior to my involvement, and my involvement is not very large. It's pretty minimal, but we still try to maintain that connection. Um, and they've had us over for consent talks. Um, Recently, I think it was in September, where we hosted a queer game night, and we used to do a lot more general queer outreach with Kentucky Health Justice Network. So, are you aware of that? Of what?
A little bit.
A little bit. So they not only work for like providing social justice for reproductive rights, but also for like trans health, etc. So they're a very like queer oriented organization as well. Um, and so there was an outreach coordinator who worked very closely with us for a while before she left that position. And we were doing pretty regular queer craft nights in collaboration with Kentucky Health Justice Network. So inviting members out in the community and be like, there's this space here at the center, like we're going to have queer craft night and you can come in here, just literally be queers with people. There'll be like light refreshments and stuff, and you can craft. Like that's what's better than that, right? Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it was pretty nice to just have that connection and really letting people know that we provide LGBTQ friendly services here at the center. So that's kind of like been my goal too, like especially with like Louisville Youth Group, letting them know what like consent is, what healthy relationships look like versus unhealthy relationships, or red flags, healthy boundaries. But trying to do like that prevention measure by talking with Louisville Youth Group. But for those who haven't been blessed with that, I hate to use the word blessed, but that's the only thing that came to mind. But like #blessed. like if adults hadn't been granted the opportunity to like learn about those things at a young age, at least let them know that there are services, or even if they had known about that and they're still experiencing sexual violence or have experienced sexual violence or domestic violence, um, that we're here for them, or if they know somebody who's going through a difficult time, that we're here for them. So Louisville Youth Group, we did the queer craft nights for a while. We're trying to like sort of revamp different kinds of queer activities, not just crafts, since that was a very like Kentucky Health Justice Network collaboration with the center. And of course, we participate at all the Pride events, whether it's marching or tabling for our Pride festivals. So.
Awesome. How do you think the community's like grown to accept? Like, do you think it's better now?
For LGBTQ folks,
Yeah.
I think for the overwhelming majority of LGBTQ folks, minus the T, I think there, especially with like public figures like Laverne Cox, Caitlyn Jenner, uh, that there's more trans visibility, but there's still an overwhelming majority of violence directed towards trans people. I mean, think about like 2015, 2016, that trans bathroom bill that was enacted in North Carolina. And that was actually a direct result of Charlotte, which is, a blue dot in a red state. Um, they were trying to pass a non-discrimination ordinance, so like offering more rights to LGBTQ people. And in response, North Carolina, I believe, legislature put a pause on that and just completely enacted ways to minimize rights for LGBTQ folks. And that was obviously not too far off in the past. And same thing with, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed in 2013, I want to say. So, but again, not too far off in the past. And there's still discrimination against trans people in the military, where Trump administration asked that trans people don't enlist. And if they have already been enlisted in the military and are working in the military, that they're basically trying to get them out. Like they're trying to offer early retirement or some bogus reasons, like medical reasons or anything, just to say that let's disqualify you from continuing to be in the service. So I think trans people experience higher rates of discrimination and violence, especially trans women of color are more likely to experience lethality amongst the LGBTQ community. Trans people in general, but specifically trans women of color, are at great risk for lethality. So while there has been a lot of involvement and changes in the LGBTQ community, I mean, we can have pride festivals. I still get nervous that, and it's not just pride festivals, mass shootings are occurring everywhere and anywhere, schools, churches, concerts, movie theaters. But anytime I go to like a large event like that, especially for pride festivals, especially when people are outside preaching hate and degrading the community, it's a little scary sometimes still to walk into those spaces. And I'm sure for our allies too, like, that's not, we're not facing that alone. Like the people who are attending Pride festivals and who are being in support of the LGBTQ community are experiencing like some degree of fear that what if some crazy person comes in and tries to kill them all. Pulse nightclub, it's a very real fear that LGBTQ people experience high instances of violence. So, yeah. So, I think that it's evolving, but then it also kind of sometimes feels like it's digressing. Like, and I know that because Obama was in power for 2 terms, I felt like more conservative folks really needed. They're like, we need to make sure that we get any liberal out of office, basically, and anybody who supports LGBTQ people. I'm sorry. Anybody who supports LGBTQ, we need to get them out of office. And it's not just LGBTQ. Like, basically, it's that bipartisan battle of like liberal versus conservative, and always is and always has in the United States. And so, I feel like that there was like an uprising because people were so disgruntled with the Obama administration, specifically conservative people were so disgruntled with the Obama administration that they're like, we need to take back that power, and which is disheartening for us that like that they're still not open minded, or that they're so focused on X, Y, and Z, and I don't know exactly what that could be because that's. I think it varies from person to person, but they're so focused on whatever the GOP stance is that they either hope that it means it limits the rights of LGBTQ rights or completely dismisses the fact that it's going to affect LGBTQ rights. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like either they know they want that those rights to be limited, or they don't care. Mm-hmm. So I think it's evolving, but sometimes you go 2 steps forward and 1 step back, 2 steps back, 3 steps back, just depending on the whatever that tide that rolls. And there's still a lot of hate in this world, but especially in the States. Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything else that you're hoping for to hear from me.
Nope, it was wonderful.
Okay.
You can hit the red button if you want.
Your computer had decided to close off for a second, so you're locked. I'm locked out.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm sure it was still recording, just. Yep, still recording.